Welcome to the Next Level Guys Show podcast. I'm Ian, and this is where men rebuild discipline, confidence, and take control of their lives. No hype, no excuses, just real conversations and practical tools. Let's get into today's episode. The world knows all about the shot, but few know that the hardest battle was learning how to live after the war. The world knows Craig Harrison for the longest confirmed sniper shot in military history. But the real story, it begins after the war, when the mission had ended and a man has to rebuild his identity from scratch. Soldiers train for war, but very few are trained for what happens when the uniform comes off and the war's ended. You don't even have to be a soldier to recognise that feeling. That moment when the mission that you were on that once defined you and your whole life disappears and you wonder who you are now and what's next for you. Sadly, many men get lost in that transition. Meet today's guest, Craig Harrison. He's a former British Army sniper and the man behind the longest confirmed sniper shot in military history. Today, he speaks openly and vulnerably about war, trauma, and the difficult journey of rebuilding life after the uniform comes off. This isn't just a story about war. Is a conversation about identity, resilience, and the quiet work of rebuilding a life when the world you once belonged to is gone. And now, let's get to the interview. How would you describe who you are and why you're well known, or what do you think your achievements are?
Do you know what my wife says to me? She goes, "Do you realise what you've done and what you're doing now?" And I don't realise. And is it? My wife goes, "Because you're very humble in what what you've done and what you've achieved in your life." And I still don't see it now. I try and help as many people as possible, for their mental health journey and PTSD and stuff. And I help people in their military career as well, when I was in. And no, I probably to this day now, I probably still do not see who I am and what I have done and what I've achieved. And I don't know, I'm just me, and I've got an ability, I think, just to talk to people and to guide people. And when shit hits the fan, when you're on tour or you're in a firefight and stuff like that, I, I don't know. I've got an ability to keep a level head, and when the rounds are going over and you got injured casualties and stuff like that, I'm just level headed. I'm just calm under that situation, but I don't see it. I don't see it. No, I don't see it. My wife go, "Fucking hell, Craig," but I don't see it. I'm just me. I'm just Craig Harrison.
That's probably one of the better interactions I've had, because everybody kind of goes into their PR speak, and you always come across as this normal, nice guy who just did a job, doesn't see it as like this or that, but you're just like, I'm myself, listening to my wife, we have a joke about it, etc. And I think that's the thing, is we all have this identities that we try to maintain, and that's why I was more interested in learning about you than the shot or the man who made the shot, because you're now finding another identity for yourself and helping others find their versions of themselves outside of that. But I've been listening to a few different podcasts about you, and while you're growing up, you wanted to be a farrier. How did you go from that to being an army man? I know you've got a history of service in your family, but what was there a turning point that led you out of that?
Well, basically, I joined the army, and I think the army now is different. I'm not sure how the entry test is. I think it's all computers, but it was all pen and paper when I joined, and it was like simple things like John's on an end of a diving board where we get more spring, A, B, or C sort of thing. So it was quite simple, and you're graded on what your what score you got on your test. And I'm dyslexic, and I really wish I concentrated more at school, but just found it really difficult. I'm more of a practical kind of guy, and I rode horses nearly all my childhood, and I had a good childhood, very strict childhood, but I achieved a lot, with eventing, triathlons and stuff like that. So I'm a very practical kind of man, and my grandfather said to me, get a trade," and so I was always directed in joining the armed forces, always. And because my love with horses and animals, I thought, fuck it, I'll join the Household Cavalry, and because
Mm.
horses and stuff like that. But I never in my wildest dreams thought it would be like it is or was or still is, how strict it was, how they how they treat the horses and what they do and all that, and there was no apprenticeships going on where I was born in Cheltenham in Gloucestershire. There was no farrier apprenticeships. So Household Cavalry was the only answer. And luckily, my bar test, when I did my exam, I got offered the Household Cavalry because what they do when you do your exam, you're graded, and they would say, right, you're at this level, we can offer you this. Be a foot soldier, be the rifles, be this, be this. But luckily, for some reason, I must have been intelligent that day, and I got a high school test, and they offered me the Household Cavalry. So yeah, my dream was coming true. And then I became well. I went into the forge to do my apprenticeship, and my practical skills were on par, and it was just my written. Because you do a lot of veterinary stuff as a farrier, especially in the armed forces, because obviously you get one vet and they rely on you as well to diagnose the problems with the horses. And my written skills weren't up to it, or, pardon me, or the Latin names and God knows what to do with the horse. But my practical skills were good, so I didn't make the grade to become a farrier. But I didn't have a plan B. I didn't have a plan B. And every time I do talks or I talk to the younger generation, I always say to them, always have a fucking plan B. Always have a plan B. Because it's not necessarily plan A is going to work out. Now,
Mm.
me becoming a sniper, I realise now when I was on the ground to have a plan A, B, C, D, E, F, G, because things can go fucking horribly wrong and at a fast pace as well, So yeah, I didn't have a plan B. So I went AWOL from London, from the Household Cavalry, and I went to join the French Foreign Legion. So yeah, that's where I am.
As you do. Yeah.
As you do, yeah, because I just I felt very lost, and no one when you first join the army, no one listens to you. You
Mm.
can't have an opinion. And I felt very lost, and I knew about the French Foreign Legion, and I thought, fuck it, I'll just go and join, And when I got there, I was very honest with them, and I said, look, I'm AWOL from the British Army, and at that, if I'd have joined 5 or 6 years ago, at that time, they would have accepted me because their criteria had changed. They don't accept murderers, rapists like they used to years ago, and they don't accept people that are AWOL. So yeah, they sent me back. Um, I spent. I went back to Knightsbridge, and I did 4 days in Nick there in the prison there, and carried on soldiering. And then I started prize fighting for money. So yeah, um, I was just going down a rabbit hole I didn't really want to go down. But luckily, the army saw that, especially my regiment, and they sent me to Windsor because my regiment split into two. So you got the ceremonial side, which is the horses, and also you got the reconnaissance role, which at the time they've moved now. They're in Salisbury, Bulford. But at the time they were in Windsor, and they sent me from London into Windsor. And do you know what? I never looked back. Never looked back. Do I miss the horses? Yeah, I do. Yeah, they gave me so much calmness in my life. But do I regret going to Windsor? No, because two things happened. I wouldn't have met my wife, and I wouldn't have become a sniper, and I wouldn't be here talking to you now. So,
I love that. The first benefit you think about is the missus.
oh,
There are many men that would have gone about accomplishments, achievements, and yours is the one that made you feel pure and whole. And I think that says a lot about you. I mean, was that becoming in the reconnaissance side of things? Was that the bit that made you sort of link back to you as a kid, being out in nature, enjoying the horses, being adventurous and doing things? Was that the side of you that appealed to?
yeah, oh, massively. I just love being outside. You know, I just love being in the wilderness and doing stuff. And the regiment gave me that. I was a bit of a, they call you a camp rat. When you're in camp, you're just frustrated all the fucking time. Because you just want to be on exercise. You want to be running around the area and stuff like that. So as much as I did, I spent a lot of time on exercise as much as I could because. And if there's an exercise coming up and they needed volunteers to go on the exercise, I used to volunteer because I just love being out of camp, you know, out of that routine and back in the countryside, and I absolutely loved it. And that's why I think I flourished as well.
And do you think that gave you that identity that you were looking for, that plan, that sense of belonging? Was there a moment that you just looked around and thought, yeah, I belong here. I deserve to be here. This is what I'm here for.
Yeah, without a doubt. I struggled with purpose. And I think I struggled. Do you know what? Looking back at it, I think I've struggled for a long time with purpose in myself. What am I here for? What am I doing? I suppose if you asked anybody and you said to them, what is your purpose? They would give you an answer, and I can't give you an answer. You know, my wife would correct me and she say, "I'm your purpose." The dogs are your purpose. But I think I've always struggled with that identity thing. Was the regiment good for me? Yeah, it took me out of London. It took me out of that place I didn't want to go down, that rabbit hole, that dark place, because I could have been in so much more trouble, And, I think that's one thing I thank the regiment for is noticing that and taking me away.
Because everybody thinks that sniping as the sort of the technical side of it, the ghost aspect to get into places to shoot, etc. But it takes some sort of amazing sense of mentality to work out the fulcrums, levers, trajectories of the shots, etc. But also like the staying for hours waiting for your shot or getting yourself into that situation. But you're very hard on yourself, I noticed, because you said about luck to get through, that you don't think you deserve it, etc. But I've come from someone with depression and intrusive thoughts and OCD, and I know that getting out of bed sometimes can be a living hell. Like it could be the worst day of your life, carrying this internal prison around with you. And not only have you come out of one of the hardest situations, been in some of the worst situations, and seen what the worst things humans can do, you're now using that to help other people find their purpose. And I find it amazing that you're so humble about it that you're just like, I don't know my purpose. I've got to keep the missus happy. We've all got to do that. But you have this, but you're doing this amazing things. You have such a strength of character. And I think that's what makes you you. What do you think it takes mentally to do that job well, or to survive that aspect of it?
I think let's go back to when I was a child. I had a brother. I've got a brother, and he's he had no interest in the countryside, horses, or anything like that. And I was a very lonely child because I spent a lot of time with my horse, riding on my own, and I had my best mate with me, Tom. We'd go out on the weekend. We'd just get some sandwiches made up and just fuck off for the whole day. And then the next day we'd do exactly the thing. We'll go into the countryside. So I was a very lonely child, and I was very brought up, strict upbringing. But becoming a sniper, see, in my regiment there was no prospects for snipering because my regiment is so archaic, and they refused to move on with the times. But when they had a big shift around, and they said that they allowed snipers into the household cavalry, I pestered them all the time to get me on the sniper course. And eventually I got onto the sniper course. And snipering is one phase. There's two phases. Well, there's seven phases altogether, but the main phases is with the shooting phase. Once you pass the shooting phase, then you go on to the sniper phase. And when you're training or learning to be a sniper, you're on your own. You don't work as a pair. You have to be mature enough to get yourself to A to B at a certain pace, at a certain time, get to that location. We call it FFP, final fire position. And once you're in your FFP, lay there for a certain amount of time and take your shot. And you do that over and over and over again. And I think I excelled at that because I've been on my own as a child and I like my own company, you know. And I think that's why I get on so well with my wife, Tanya, because it's just me and her, and we don't have many friends to overcrowd us or take up our time. It's just me and her, and I think that's stemmed from being a child to going on being a sniper to going on being my married life. And yeah, I think I excelled more because I like being on my own. Yeah.
I think that says a lot about you because it's that side of you want to surround yourself with the right people. You're not just wanting numbers or acquaintances. You want to be surrounded by the right people. And I think that's something a lot of people struggle. We all want the likes and the numbers to show off we're so popular. But give me 2 or 3 good friends, and I'd happily dump 500 Facebook contacts.
Yeah, yeah,
That kind of
yeah.
thing. I mean, when you are doing something that'll go out and you'll spend hours getting to position to maybe take a shot that'll last seconds, or you're going out, crawling into position or waiting for the command, what goes through your head? Are you just thinking about the sort of the ritual of the shot? Are you thinking about where you are? Like, how do you keep yourself focused and trained, ready to act? Because I like my own company as well, but did you struggle with your attention waning, or were you always so focused on the mission at hand? How did you deal with that side of things?
Do you know what? I used to train when I was training to be a sniper. We had a corridor in our accommodation block, and it was a long old fucking corridor. It was, um, I'd say about 30 meters long, because it had different rooms shooting off it. And what I used to do, I used to do a thing called dry training, and basically you manipulate the bolt, load it, cock it, fire it, and you do that every couple of minutes. You would do that. And what I used to do is put my laptop at the end of the corridor, and then put a film on, and go back to my rifle, lay there, look for my scope, and just watch the film. And sounds horrible, but put the crosshairs on the actors, and just say they were the target that I needed, and then follow them around the laptop, and then take the shot. And I think more training you do, and dry training is so important because sniping is a perishable art. It means you got to stay on the ball all the time. Once you get to your FFP, I used to I used to go to my happy place, and my happy place is being with Tanya, being with my dog, and that's my happy place, and I close my eyes, I bring myself up to the scope, and then I take the shot. For some reason, my heartbeat will slow down, and then what I used to do if I was in a location for a long period of time is give the targets names. So, say for instance, I was in Iraq or Afghanistan, looking down into a compound, I would give everyone a name, saying, "Oh yeah, there's John coming out with his wonky leg," and using them little childish things keeps you alert at all times. Because you say to yourself, "Oh, where's John gone? I haven't seen him this morning." Oh, there he is coming out now. There's his wife. Yeah, there she is. Look, God, she's ugly. And little things like that, just to keep your mind occupied on what you're doing.
Mm.
And then obviously you get the green light to take the target out. So you end up taking that target out, and then your mission's done, and then you just have to extract yourself. But sometimes after you take that shot, you have to stay there for a little bit longer because they flood the area full of Taliban or insurgents looking for you. And if you extract yourself out, you're going to give your position away. So sometimes you do everything under darkness anyway. So
I mean, I love the idea of you using films to train. You're making it become automatic. What kind of films were you watching at that point? Was it just anything, or is there one that stands out
anything.
that was?
Yeah, I'm a big horror film fan. Recently I just bought 117 DVDs, horror DVDs from a camper van, and I'll just put a crappy horror film on, sit at the end of the corridor and just watch it, and I was the only one to do that. Everyone else was getting their heads down, and I wasn't. I was dry training, constantly dry training, because I think I was the only household cavalryman at the time to be on the sniper course, and failing isn't an option in my head, unless I've got a serious fucking injury. And when I went for selection with Special Forces, I got a really bad injury in the side of my knee, so I couldn't carry on. But if I didn't have that injury, I would have carried on, But
Mm.
I'm very dedicated in what I do, and I put 100% in on what I do as well. Because if you don't put 100% in, you're not going to achieve your end goal at the time, And I think that's why I excelled at sniping when I was on tour. I put 100% in finding the target, getting into that location, and doing the job.
Because we're very similar in that sense. Like one of my things to go to if I'm stressed is I'll watch like a Halloween film just to de-stress. I like watching
Okay.
films because
Yeah.
it's my thing away from people.
Yeah.
Is that the same for you?
I watch cartoons. Yeah, not childish baby cartoons, but like Scooby Doo. I watch Rick and Morty, stuff like that. Stuff that look, it's not real,
Mm-hmm.
and it takes me out of that stress zone, if that makes sense. So, if Tanya's upstairs watching her, I call it watching her crap on telly. But if she's upstairs watching her stuff and she comes downstairs and I'm watching a cartoon, she knows I'm just trying to focus and having a bit of a wobble. And it's finding them triggers that help you, that people need to do to help their mental health or PTSD, or even
Mm-hmm.
to focus, to take themselves from reality sometimes.
I mean, I know I had a bit of a panic attack the last time I was on a plane, and I remember putting on the Harry Potter audiobooks, read them tons of times, heard it tons of times, but it was just that similarity, that repetitiveness of listening to it calmed me down, and I zoned in on the story. I knew, it kind of controlled it. Did you do that in the field? Do you do that when you're struggling? Is there like a particular like series of films that you just watch that kind of calms you? Is there like an audio book or anything of that kind of
Not
description?
really. I do you know what? I listen to podcasts like the Trailer Park Boys. Have you heard of them?
I've heard of them. I don't think I've
The
ever listened to them.
they got a podcast and they just make me laugh, And before I go to bed, I put a headphone in and I lay on my bed and I listen to stuff to just take me out of the reality zone. Films could be anything, mainly horror, crappy horror. That's got a lot of budget of £1 or something, and you think, fuck this is
Right.
awful, but I'm just going to, I enjoy it, and I think that's important. You need to take that respite from reality, And even on tour, I was on my own. I used to eat with the lads, but when it come down to it, I just got back to my tent. I was just on my own, and yeah, I've always been like that. I've always been like that. Even when I was, going on the piss with the lads, I used to stop in the pub or in the nightclub, and I think, the fuck am I doing? And I just used to just walk home, go back to
Mm.
camp, and then it was one point I had an epiphany, and I thought, fuck it, I'm just not going to go out anymore. It just doesn't interest me, And when I met Tanya, nearly turned around. I nearly turned around, and I said to myself at the services, come on, Craig, you always fucking do it. Just go. Because I was meeting a friend of mine and he never tipped up. And that's how I met Tanya. So I'm not a religious man, but I believe in fate and things and people are put in your way, either to help you or, or trying to think of a word now. I can't think of it. Trying to help you or stop you. Do you know what I mean? Everything there
Mm.
is for a reason. It's fate. That's what I'm a big believer of.
It's like the universe providing or giving you the same lesson over and over again till you learn it, kind of thing.
Oh, massively. Yeah, my grandfather, Reg Harrison. He was a big father figure in my life, massive father figure. And when he passed away in '94, I was in Scotland at the time doing the Edinburgh Tattoo, and I got the call that he had passed away. And I went to see his coffin, but my mum wouldn't let me go to see him get buried, which really hurt me. And he taught me so much, so much. Um, and I miss him dearly, And people say I look like him. If you see a photo of him and me, I follow after him. So, yeah.
I love that sense of warmth, to that kind of pride that you take in it. That and it shows the importance that he made in your life. I think it shows as well. I mean that you're like me, that you sit in a pub and you be surrounded by people and think, I don't want to be here. I'd rather be with the people I love, just sitting with them. You don't need to be doing anything. You just want to be spending time with that fair few that make you feel like you. I mean, you talked about what and eat with the guys, and then you went and sat in your tent. It links back to your kind of that trust, that ability to believe in yourself and to be you. But for people who are never been in that environment, you're trained to think ahead, plan A, B, C, D, E, F, G. You're trained to incredible control under pressure. What did it teach you about, managing that adrenaline, but also like situational awareness? Because you've been in some real hellholes. How did you manage to
Yes.
stay in your own like focused, but also survive it and just be exceptional at what you do?
Do you know what? I used to put my Tanya said to me, be safe, don't put yourself in danger, don't do this, don't do that. And I said, yeah, I promise you I won't. I had 16 guys to look after, and when you're in we call it a tick, troops in contact or dust up, or there's many names for it. But when you're in a situation and shit's hitting the fan, you don't worry about yourself, you worry about your lads and you worry about their safety. So calm under pressure. I don't know why. I've always been like that. I've always. It's hard to explain. There's no words for it. Why I am like I am under contact, getting shot at and stuff like that, you know. But I always led by the front. So if shit was hitting the fan, I would try and, like, one incident, I got shot in the helmet, all right, and it knocked me out for about 20 seconds. And when I came around, everything was in slow motion, and and all I could see was people panicking, shots getting fired, but they're sporadic shots. They weren't aim shots or anything. People were panicking because we were getting shot at, and I felt that I had to do something. To this day now, I've got no recollection of what I'd done. To this day now, it's only my driver who told me what I'd done. And apparently, I got on the machine gun. I put suppressing fire down in the right direction of the Taliban. And once my the wagon got hit so many times, it hit the ammo box to squash it. So the rounds, which was on a belt, stuck. The gun stopped. So apparently I got my SA-80 out, started putting rounds down on that. Once I ran out of 4 magazines of 30 rounds of ammo, I got my sidearm out, started putting spray, and I extracted everyone off the hill. I was shouting orders. I haven't got a fucking clue. I haven't got a clue what I'd done that day.
I think that it's rare, but I think you're one of those people that you only find your purpose when people are struggling at that moment. You're that person that while the shit's hitting the fan and people are running around like headless chickens, you're okay. Let's do this. Let's do that. It's true leadership. You find yourself in the moments that everything else is going wrong and the brown stuff's flowing, the true panic, and to do that while you don't even remember, it shows that is buried in you, that instinct to take control, to look after people, to protect people. That's a hell of a thing to do and not even remember it, to save lives and to protect people. How does that make you feel, knowing that you did that that's something you do on autopilot?
We go back to the first question that you asked. I don't know. I feel nothing. I feel nothing. And it does irritate certain people when I say I feel nothing, because they say, fucking hell, Craig, you've achieved. Like, we go back to when we started the interview. I just feel nothing. I just feel I've done my job and I've done it. And do you know what? I fucking miss it. I miss it. I'll never sniper again. I'll never be in a situation like I've been in Afghan and Iraq and Kosovo. I'll never be in them situations again. And that's what I thrive on, and that's what I miss. And that's what I daydream about, all the time. But yeah, I feel it sounds quite, I don't know. Yeah, I feel nothing. I feel nothing,
Is the
And
Mavericks?
Go on, sorry.
That's what I was going to say. Is the Maverick school, a survival school, and the sniping school, are they helping give you the aspects of the bits that you're missing?
The bushcraft does. The Maverick survival school does, and I really Tanya always says to me, when I come back from the weekend, I'm a different person. I'm totally a different person. And then obviously I got a full time job in the week, and that batters me down, batters me down, batters me down, and then I do the weekend again, and I'm back up again doing what I
Mm.
do because I'm outside, I'm teaching, you know, but teaching for me is good and is healthy for me, but I'll never be shot at again or have that rush of that adrenaline rush of doing it. And I think that's what I miss, you know. 23 years and then it's come to a fucking end. Next thing I know, I'm mowing the lawn, mending washing machines, and doing this, doing that. And then I think this is what I left work the other day and I spoke to Tanya and I said to her, what the fuck am I doing? What am I doing? And she says to me, just come home. And she gives me a big cuddle and she goes, it'll be all right, everything will be all right. And I thought, I know. I do have these moments where I think, what the fuck am I doing? And because I've learnt this and I learnt the hard way, nothing lasts forever. Nothing lasts forever. And I think if it did last forever, this world would be a different place,
Yeah.
massively different place. you know. And I'm getting older. I've got my aches and pains. When I got blown up, that's really affected me. I've had two hip replacements fully replaced now. I've lost a finger. I get migraines all the time, brain injury, my bones ache, my lower back hurts. So when I do have these things of saying, fucking hell, I miss it. Could I do it now? Probably not. Probably not. Does a sniper school give me it? Yeah, it does, because I love teaching.
Mm.
It gives me that bit of an edge, but majority of it would be being in a contact situation and stuff like that, jumping out of helicopters, parachuting. You won't get that anymore. And I suppose it's got to end at some time.
And is there anything that's come close? Is there anything like a healthier alternative that you've kind of found? Or is it just being back with Tanya? Is it teaching? Is it kind of feeling needed in that sense? Because you did all this stuff by yourself. You're a person who lives by themselves, that does their own thing. Like when they were out sniping, etc. Is that a struggle to find something that can let you dial in? Because I know of myself, I have no idea who I am or what I am. That's why I started the podcast. A lot of other guys will try to commit suicide or drink themselves into oblivion or take drugs. But you're still here. You're still doing amazing work. You're helping others. You're giving back. You're giving veterans like stuff a sense of purpose once they've left. You're giving people who have no sense of purpose an ability to find themselves through your. Of course, you do. You do amazing work. I think that helps because you are just like, I don't know what I'm doing yet. You're not living on past achievements. You're trying to find yourself, and I think that helps you be you. Do you think that helps you in a way?
But yeah, like you said, the bushcraft helps massively. The sniper school helps massively, and that gives me some sort of direction. And I'll never find anything that could replace that rush. And I need to come to terms that I am getting old. And like I said before, nothing lasts forever. And
Mm.
and I think age is horrible because you come to a certain point where you've got more years behind you than you have in front of you, and you think to yourself, I'm 51 now, 20, 25, 26 years, probably max sometimes. If I lived on more than that, fantastic. And it's horrible to think that way, but I couldn't keep up that tempo as when I was younger. And and that's what I struggle with in my head, that I am getting older. I have got grey hair. I am getting a bit chubby now, midlife spreads and stuff like
I'm not
that.
saying a word.
Yeah, I do. But I tell you what helps me as well. I go to the gym every day. I get up at 3:30 every morning and I go to the gym and I train hard. And I think Tanya said to me, "What are you training for?" I said, "I don't know. I don't know. And I said to her, I said, I want to be strong and I want to be physically fit so I can protect you." And that's what that was my answer. So maybe what will replace sniping? Protecting my family, protecting Tanya, feeling strong, and yeah, I think that would replace it.
It's time for a quick break. There are millions of potential products to buy, so how do you know which ones are worth your hard-earned money? Simple. You go to nextlevelguy.com/affiliates and explore those that will transform and improve your life. You'll find deals, listener exclusives, and special offers with some great companies. Recommendations are 100% honest and only on items Ian has tried or believes in. The companies showcased will make you a better man in all areas of your life. Simply go to nextlevelguy.com/affiliates and level up.
Because a lot of people have heard the story about, when you fire the longest shot, and people associate you with that moment. How does that change? Like, because you said, people just kind of like after you would kill, take a shot, take a life, etc. You sometimes sat there and expected somebody to come and tell you off, and you were surprised it was just like, okay, next mission. There was no kind of depression or depressed time to kind of come to terms with it. You were just straight out to the next mission. How did it feel become known as the guy with the longest shot? Do you think did it affect you in that way because you could never live back up to that sense of achievement, that now that you're out of it, you don't have that? Do you know what I mean? Did people talking about it so much affect you because you thought there's more to me than just that shot?
Yeah, yeah. To be honest with you, I'm people. I say to Tanya and other people, am I? Do I regret taking that shot? And I said it's a fluke, and they said, yeah, but you done it twice, and I said, yeah, well, two flukes. And do I regret taking the shot? No, because I saved 12 lives who were in the shit, and I stopped that contact. Um, but do I regret it because it affected my home life, as in death threats, and then we had to go into hiding for 3 years. That affected me, and I wish I'd never done it, because of that. But on the flip side, I'm glad I'd done it because I saved some people's lives. And I think it's the media again. The media leaked the story and it put me and my wife and my daughters in a situation that I'd never dreamed of, and the army abandoned me, totally abandoned me. The only people that were there for me were the Surrey police, and they were absolutely fantastic.
Because I think that's the side of things, like, because you see it now with the America and Iraq and Israel war at the moment. Sorry, the Iranian war. We get all the keyboard warriors saying, "Oh, we're going to smash them, we're going to kill them, we're going to destroy them," and none of them have stepped foot in a battlefield. And that the fact that you're looking at that as protecting, your comrades, you're not looking at that as a sense of, oh, I did that, I had the record. You're looking at that as I saved lives. That says a lot
Yeah.
about you as a person. And do you think that's why you struggled with it? It's that you were abandoned at the time of need when you had given so much to to that sense, that people don't understand the death threats, the impact something like that can have on you?
No one understood. No one understood. No one understood what we went through. No one understood what my wife went through, my daughters went through. No one did. Not even Tanya's family understood what we went through deeply, mentally, and physically. No one did. And it's all right, like you said, to sit on a keyboard and call me an assassin, call me a baby killer, call me a fucking murderer. Yeah, you crack on, mate. You crack on, because I done my job, and I like to think I done it at the highest ability.
You
You
did.
know, breaking the world record, that can fuck off. You know, I done my job and I done it well. And it's just a sad matter of affairs. Is when I've come home, I've brought Afghan home with me, and it's affected my wife and my daughters, and I felt abandoned, after serving 23 years in the Household Cavalry, and giving all to the regiment, because it was always the army first, Tanya second, always. If the army said jump, I'll say how fucking high. I would leave on a dime. I'll just fuck off, do my job. And
Yeah.
it was hard on Tanya, and army life is hard. But when I left, I said I'll give everything back to her, and I like to think that I'm achieving that and giving everything back to her. But with the army, and especially my regiment, it's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking. And when people say to me, "I want to join the army," I encourage them to join the army, but I always say, get a trade. Get a trade. Make the army work for you. Don't work for the army. That's what I always say. Join the engineers. Join the REME. Join the signals. Join the RMPs. Get yourself a trade, because, like I said before earlier on, nothing lasts forever.
No.
And you leave the army, you're going to have something to fall back on. After a fantastic 22 years or more, you're going to fall back on, and you're going to have a trade. Either join the police force, engineers, fucking all your licenses, carpenters, bricklayers, surveyors, everything that it will offer you. And that's what I say. Don't join the foot guards. Don't join a regiment that's not going to support you if you're in dire straits. Don't get me wrong, some regiments have a fantastic ethos, like the Paras. They have a fantastic support system. Marines, they have a fantastic support system. The Rifles do as well, But sadly, my regiment doesn't. It doesn't. It's just more seats on bums more than compassion. And it's sad to see. It's sad to see.
And do you think that's the main problem with a lot of guys today, is that we've only ever seen war through COD? We've only ever seen war through these films, the media. They glorify battles. No one's ever stepped on it on the battlefield. People who actually have served in that. So we see the hero winning in the battle at the end of it, but we don't see the guy having to come to terms with what he's had to do that day, to see the horrors you've dealt with that day, and bringing it home. And I mean, you've talked in another podcast about how no one even came and said to you, "Okay, are you okay? This is what we need you to do. Here's some therapy we're going to offer you." You were just kind of like, "Okay, right, see you later." How do you come to terms with that as you're away from the battlefield? Is that where we go wrong?
Oh, massively. And I think there's a famous picture of a young teenager in the First World War, and they took a picture of him before he went on the front line, and then they took a picture of him after, and he looks like an 80-year-old man.
I think I know the one you mean.
And yeah, I don't think it's the First World War. It might have been the Civil War, but there's a few pictures of the Ukrainian war that's going on at the moment with Russia. You know, um, them guys, they always show a picture of them before they went on the front line, and the picture of them now coming home. They are silhouettes of themselves. You know, people don't fucking see that, and that needs to be echoed all the time. And people need to see these pictures of this. What war fucking does for you physically, mentally. This what war does to you. It fucking
Mm.
shatters you. You know, and you always think that you give your all to a job and you expect them to give it back to you, but they don't. They don't. And do you know what's hard as well is being a civvy and putting 100% into everything that I do, 100 fucking% in everything that I do. You know, to better my family, to better my mental health, and people take the piss, and people don't don't give you that in Civvy Street as well. And I thought it was just the armed forces, you know, and I think that's why it's hard as well, you know.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people, they haven't got a life themselves, or they haven't got a purpose or whatever, so they'd rather beat down people who do podcasts or beat down people who serve in any way at all. And it's easy for somebody who hasn't got a great war to fight or hasn't got to do X, Y, Z, look after a sick family member or whatever, to sit there and jump on social media and say, oh, this or that or that. And at no point do they have to justify themselves. Back in the day when you would have a community where you would get slapped across the head if you ever spoke bad to an adult. Look at the society now. We're raising a bunch of guys who are messed up in the head. They'd rather sit and drink and I was taught to stand up. If somebody came to shake your hand, you held the door open for a woman, you held, for kids, whatever. No one does these sorts of things anymore. Just common decency's gone out of the world. And do you think that's a problem, that a lot of guys, well, people in general, don't understand the sense of responsibility, the pain, the PTSD, the intrusive thoughts, etc., after you've had to take a life? Is it something that stays with you for so long?
Yeah, of course it will. And and Tanya says to me, it goes, "You seem better," because I was in shit state. "You seem better now, but obviously you're gonna have your shit days and stuff like that, and you're never gonna forget on what you've done." But the generation now of kids coming into this world and teenagers, they just want to, and I think social media is a massive influence on it, where they want to be podcasters, they want to be YouTubers, they want to do this, they want to do that, and but they don't want to work, they don't want to work for it, they just think it's going to fall into place.
Mm-hmm.
Don't get me wrong, it's happened to some people and they're doing really well from it, but people just, this younger generation is a nightmare. I opened the door for two women this morning at a petrol station, and they just walked straight past me, didn't even say anything. Younger generation, and I just think, oh, and it makes me feel, what the fuck am I doing? Why am I still nice? Why am I still like this? Because I've been brought up like that. I got my granddad's views and the way he's taught me, to respect and do things. And they say, what about bring national service back? That would never work. That would never work. Not with the attitude of the younger generation. That would never fucking work. And it'd be the worst thing that this country could do, is bring national service back. You'd have more people able. And what they're doing now in the British Army, they're encouraging people to join. And what they're saying is, from 18 to 24 years old, you can have a gap year. And they will pay for it. You'll have full pay for a year, just have a gap year, to encourage people to join the military. Can you imagine that? Having a year off, having such a fucking good time, not working but getting paid still, and then you've got to go back. They're not going to go back, are they? You know what I mean? Because they're going to put on weight. They're not going to stay fit. They're going to get in drama. They're going to get shit faced. It'll be a nightmare. Absolute
No.
worst thing the army could have done is come up with that idea, and the army's been the highest ever recruiting we had is in 2010. And I think the Navy is doing better than us because there's no incentive anymore. And I'll tell you one thing, right? When the pension came out, there was 1974 pension scheme, okay? And when I was in still, they encouraged everybody to turn over to the 2000 pension scheme. But we thought, no, we're going to stay on the old scheme because they figured, all right, that when you leave the army, your pension starts straight away. But the new scheme is when you leave the army, when you're 65 and 70, your pension will kick in. They worked out that veterans die between 65 and 70. So the army's saving themselves money because that person's going to pass away.
Fuck's sake.
Absolutely ridiculous. So I'm so glad I got advice to stay on the old scheme, and I got my pension when I left the army. There's no incentive anymore. And it's gone so PC, you can't do anything. And I've got friends that have recently left, and they said, Craig, it's an absolute fucking nightmare. And I say to Tanya, I miss it. And she says, do you miss it then, or do you miss it now? And I say probably then, because it was a good laugh, camaraderie, buddy system. But now it's totally different. When I was in, you had a room full of 6 blokes, and then they brought the single slam accommodation in where you're on your own. So you come off a tour and you just sit in your room on your own. There's no camaraderie, there's no banter. And the army doesn't think that. They just think they're doing the best thing, but it's the worst thing.
And do you think that's part of what you miss? Because when you seem to come alive in other chats I've listened to, you've done on podcasts, where you talk about the people that that you were on missions with, or like the guys that you went and did excursions or checks, etc. with. It was more about the person and the kind of the jokes, the camaraderie, the silly nicknames, all that side of things. Do you miss that part of it? Like you were saying that, because your tone changes when you talk about that. Do you miss that kind of pulling togetherness?
Billion%, trillion%. Yeah, the banter, the camaraderie, the working as a team. Don't get me wrong, I enjoyed being on my own, but when you are down, people bring you out of that scenario and come on, we're going out. Come on, all of us are going out. And don't get me wrong, I did get to that where I stood there and thought, what the fuck am I doing, and go home on my own. But at the time, when there's about 20 of you in a bar and you know everyone and you're just having a laugh and a bit of banter, it's brilliant, the dark humour. And I think that's what the Maverick School's about my bushcraft school. It's about coming down and talking about your mental health if you want to talk about it. But it's also about black humour over an open fire, and having a bit of banter. And that's what I enjoy as well. And you see people that have been depressed and stuff, they come alive, when you give them a bit of banter back, they come alive and they leave on that Sunday after spending a weekend with you, a total different fucking person. And I think, that's what I miss. I miss the banter, the camaraderie, the lads, but it's weird, I don't speak to anyone. There's 23 years of my life and I don't speak to, I lie actually, I must speak to a select handful, probably, I can count on my hand, and I'm missing a finger, so there's only 4 there. So that's probably 4 people that I can reach out to if I need it, to talk to people,
Oh, I love that idea of like the dark humor, how like guys communicate with some of the most obscene jokes possible. And do you think
Oh
that's
yeah,
that fire that out in the wild, it takes you back to who you were back as a kid, but it also maybe sometimes it's the first time a guy's stepped outside a city or has stepped outside the role of provider or executive or whatever it is, and you're going back to the caveman days, standing over a fire, eating, catching, shooting, etc. We're actually being men again in that sense when you're in the Maverick School.
I think it's about the atmosphere. If you want to become anal with it and be strict with it, you're not going to get people that are going to open up to you.
Hmm.
But as soon as they see you and see how you, oh mate, how you doing? Oh, I'm a cuddler, mate. Come here, and get their trust, and then that's when they start opening up, and that's when you know, and you can't be at an open fire where you're nice and warm, sitting around there, your belly's nice and full, and you feel relaxed, and that's when you start talking, and people feel more confident when they get relaxed to start opening up about their mental health.
No.
You know.
You'd be amazed at how few people ever have that opportunity. There was that video on, was it TikTok or something, where they were like, girls were saying, and who do you go to if you have any problems? Who do you go to and talk if you're struggling or if you've got problems? And every guy came on and went, no one. I'm just a guy. I've been raised to, I've got to be strong, tall. I'm not allowed to speak my problems. We've got to be strong, tough men. And we've raised this generation of men who suddenly go, fuck, I feel rage, hate, horror in my head, but I don't know how to say it. And then now you have this
Yeah.
opportunity to let people come together and you're giving them a chance to actually express how they're feeling. You're giving them that release valve. That is an amazing purpose that you're doing. How does that feel now that you're giving those people that sense that you maybe didn't have yourself when you were coming out, and not getting somebody to talk through what happened on a mission with you or whatever? You were just sent back to your barracks till the next time. You're giving people this opportunity to talk about their mental health. Does that not fill you with a sense of warmth that you're helping so many people change their lives?
We go back to purpose again. We go back to that, and I'm I'm happy, or more than happy, and I'm ecstatic that I'm helping people with their mental health. You know, um, I think sometimes I'm a bit of I contradict myself because I struggle, and I forget sometimes that I struggle with my mental health, and helping others. I seem to, it doesn't take the limelight off me a little bit with my mental health, but with my experience and how I've been treated with the military, how my upbringing as a child, how strict it was and stuff like that. I've got empathy for a lot of people, but I think I struggle to see what I do, and it frustrates Tanya a lot. But I just like helping people, and
Hmm.
I don't want anything for it, and I don't want to. I'd love to feel in a different way, but yeah, I just don't.
I mean, I I can definitely feel that. I mean, I know there's days I can sit there and look outside and see a nice car and think I'm in a nice flat and go, I've got the best job I've ever had for ages, and I'm like, what's the point? When you feel numb and people say to you, "What do you mean? You've got a beautiful family, you've got this, you've got that," and you just sit there and you just think, but Why am I here? What's the point? What's this? And
Yeah.
the strength to fight that every day is phenomenal. And I know just from my side of things how knackering and exhausted and distraught you can be, and feel like getting out of bed can be the hardest thing, or smiling at a family thing when all you want to be is on your own. And you've seen true horrors. You've dealt with some horrible shit. And to think that you're able to get up and do this every single day, it's fucking phenomenal, mate. You should be super proud of yourself. Because everybody thinks,
I take,
sir. Oh, sorry.
go on, I take medication, and I'm a big I'm a big advocate for taking medication, as in it helps you. Now it's took me, I would say, 10 years to find out the right pills to help me, and these people that go through this hallucinogenic stuff, the mushrooms and micro dosing and stuff like that. If it works for you, it works, But my medication I'm on now helps me, and I'd rather be straight instead of dipping. And do I miss the uprise of happiness? Oh, massively, massively. The pros and cons of taking medication: low sex drive. Obviously, my wife, she's a beautiful, fantastic woman, but I just feel numb. I feel numb. My love's there for her, and she knows how much I love her, how much I give for her, how much I, provide for her. But affection wise, it's just numb. But she would rather me have me like that than on the end of a rope,
Mm.
you know. And if anyone's struggling out there, and say that you're on medication and you think your medication's not working, you need to see your GP, have a med review, and keep hounding. I need a med review. Try different meds. That's not working for me. Right, go for another fucking med review, until you find the right ones that really work for you. I think I'm on like 6 different pills, and they help me. They're spot on. They really help me. And I'm happy for them. Now, taking medication is not the answer. It's not the answer. It's just putting a mask and a plaster on what the actual problem is.
Yeah.
So talking is a major thing. You know, so when you do take that plaster off, all is left there is a scar. There's not an open wound there, and that's your road to heal and be healed.
Yeah, that hit homes because I take fluoxetine, and that's for like intrusive thoughts, OCD, the like depression, and the
Mm.
number of times I'd hear people say, "Oh, what you got to be depressed about?" And you're like, I can't explain it because we were never taught to be able to be emotional, talk our feelings, or people always just said, "Oh, man up." It's the fucking worst thing you could possibly say to somebody. And the world is happy to hear that you're doing better with them. We all want you here, and I think that's the downside. People are afraid to talk about medication, and sometimes it can be what you need, but like you said, it doesn't fix the problem. It fixes the symptoms of the problem. Have you tried like NLP, cognitive behavioral therapy? I found these kind of ways of interacting with the thoughts and dealing with them in a different way, or understanding where they're coming from, really helped me. Has any sort of talk therapy really helped you?
Do you know what? I stopped therapy because I sounds bad, I know, but I found my mental health boring, um, because I'm going over it constantly and constantly
You
and
keeping
constantly.
it alive. Yeah.
Yeah, and I feel that more I talk about it, it's not healing that wound under that plaster. Do you know what I mean?
It's like
It's still
scratching the scab.
yeah, yeah. And I thought to myself, this is shit. What in the fuck am I doing? I go to therapy and I leave therapy more angrier. And then I ring Tanya up crying and I'm sat in my car and I thought, this is not what I don't want, you know. Now, all my all my visions, my voice in my head, the stuff that I've seen, the stuff that I've done is in my head. But now it's going down into my stomach, if that makes sense. And I'm trying to depress it as much as I can, you know. Um, don't get me wrong. Like I said before, I have my days where I'm just not with it. I think I went for a meal with Tanya and she says to me, she goes, "You're here, but you're not," because I was just miles away, you know. And I've learnt myself, not through EMDI, not through talking. I've learnt myself how to cope with it, you know, and what works for me. Cartoons, go for a walk, the woods, um, watching a shitty horror film, stuff that I've learned that will help me in the long run. And people need to find out what helps them. Everybody will be different, you know, everyone's different, like yourself watching Halloween, you know, but everyone's different in what they do, you know, and I think the more videos that I post on my Instagram trying to get people to understand what works for them and to get them to do it. But the first step is leaving that front door. That's the first step.
Mm.
You know, go for that walk. Put your headphones on, put your head down and go for that walk. Get some fresh air in your lungs. Don't coop yourself up all the time in the house and stuff, you know. Have a med review, sort your meds out. I shower. I shower about 4 times a day because I feel when things get heavy on me, if I have a shower, I'm cleansing myself, and then I feel all right for a couple of hours afterwards. You know, because I feel quite clean, and
Washing the
yeah,
thoughts away, kind of thing. Yeah.
yeah,
Was it they say if you think everything's gone wrong, speak to somebody. You know, there's like a whole rhyme of like if you're struggling with this, you'd go out for a walk. If you feel like the world hates you, go for a shower. If you feel like this, then I'll have to find it and post it in the show notes because for me it was when I found out somebody had said to me in one of the interviews, "You're not your story. You can change your story anytime." I was like, "What the hell?" Somebody told me in a CBT book that you're not your thoughts. That's your brain just saying, okay, this is what you were thinking about. I'll find any bias or any kind of link to that so I can support your view of the world or whatever you think's happening. And I can remember going, fuck, I used to always believe everything in my head. I just assumed it was true. And suddenly somebody's saying, no, that's not true. It was like so opening. I was like, whoa. But people always assume that when you come back, you know, when you transition to civilian life, that you're given support by the army, they give you a fund, they give you training about life and stuff like that. But the number of soldiers I've spoken to have said you're just like out the door. Nine. You know, some of them are coming out not knowing how to balance a checkbook, not knowing how to set up an electricity supplier. What was that transition to civvy life for you? Did you get any support at all?
no, Paul, no support at all, no support. And I think Tanya had a house, you know, and she sold it, and her advice how to do gas, electric, water was second to none. You know, to have met her and she had life experience on how to do this and that council tax and things was fantastic. But these lads that leave the army and have got no one, it's fucking difficult, absolutely fucking difficult. and your regiment do not do anything. Anything. They, in fact, how many years you do means how much money you get to do a resettlement course. So, say for instance, I want to do my HGV and I'd done 16 years in the army. Yeah, they would send me off and do a HGV course for my resettlement. But if I did only 5 years, I haven't got enough money to do that. I can only do this, work in a fish and chip shop or something because that's all I'm qualified to do. So they do not what's it called it's called something in it, but into civilian life, integrate you into civilian life. That's it. Not at all. Not at all. And especially when you get medical discharge, it's even fucking worse because you're just fucking left. You're at the regiment, and from the regiment you go to a wounded unit, and that unit will sort your army pension out for you, and that's it. And then you're gone. Once your dates come, you're gone, and that's you got out. The army have nothing more to do with you. Me, I reckon every person leaving the military to become a veteran should be tracked for 2 years. Should have MOD or military support for 2 years, and I think that will stop homelessness. That will stop drug addiction, being an alcoholic, and stuff like that. If they're constantly monitored. But to do that will take a lot of work. Logistically, it would take a lot of work. But if their regiment would follow up on them, some people just want to leave and forget. Like me, I just want to leave and forget. But if the support was there, say I'd never took it up and I got out a year ago, but I still had a year left, I can always go back and say, look, I need help. Do you know what I mean? And I think that should be a thing every 2 years when you leave the army.
Do you think that's the scary part, is that they ask so much from you and they give you so little it's just kind of, you're almost treated like a unit, a tool of like for them to use, and they forget about you as a person and the kind of the emotions, the dealing with it, because you can leave mates and stuff like that, but that it follows you home. They ask you to go into these situations, but they don't provide for you after these. How did you deal with that anger when you first?
But you got to think as well. You signed up to do that job. So you must think at some point you will go to war, you will do a tour at some point, and some people never do, but at some point you will, shoot your gun in anger, and you signed up to do that. And I think when Afghan and Iraq kicked off, I think the recruitment went through the roof because people wanted to go to Afghan and Iraq, and have a bit of action. And I think it's naivety to think that that to ignore that point, that at some point you will see some action, But the only point is you can't help how your brain reacts in different situations. So PTSD, you shooting multiple people over a tour, and then your brain works in a mysterious way where you feel depressed, down, and anxious, anxiety, hypersensitivity, hypervigilancy, and stuff like that. You can't help that. You can't stop that. That's not your fault. That's how your brain works. So these people that say to you, well, you joined the army, what do you fucking expect? Well, yeah, I joined the army, but I didn't know my brain was going to do this, because like I said, people join to think that at some point you will see some action,
But you expect them to look after you.
Yeah, massively. You expect them to look after you, but like I said, you can't help how your brain works. Your brains, and everyone's got different brains, haven't they? So it works in different ways.
I think mine's pickled, to be honest. I mean, how do you But what was the a strange moment? When you came out, was there a moment when you're maybe sitting in a Tesco on a busy Saturday, or were you doing something that we take for granted, that you suddenly you just had that moment of like, what the fuck's going on? I have no idea. Was there anything strange that you found when the uniform came off? Who were you then? How did you kind of reattribute yourself to normal life, being in situations like Tesco, going for a walk with the dogs, whatever it was, when you're used to like shells coming in, bullets flying, your mates that you're going toe to toe with the world with, standing side by side, and that suddenly when that comes off, did you lose part of yourself? Did you find part of yourself coming out of the army? How did you find that transition?
I'm the army. Do you know what I mean? There used to be a saying: if you cut me, I'll piss blue, red, blue, because that's my regimental colours: blue, red, blue. If you cut me, I'll piss blue, red, blue. I haven't got blood in me, and yeah, I'm army through and through, and it's hard to integrate into civilian life. And if it wasn't, and I feel sorry for people that have left the military and haven't got no one, no support or no one to be with, because nearly, I would say, 70%, probably a little bit more, of marriages end when they leave the army, because you think you're away half the time, you're on exercise or on tour, and then you leave the army and you're under that person's feet for a lifetime, and
Hmm.
they can't hack it, so you end up getting divorced. Luckily, I landed on my feet and I found a fucking corker, and she's been absolutely brilliant, and she's helped my transition. She helped my transition, and don't get me wrong, I still stand in Sainsbury's gobsmacked, and I look around and I think, what the fuck am I doing? Look at these people, they're fucking animals. They're animals. We've lost our in, instinct to hunter gatherer, and Tanya goes, Craig, come on. You get the bananas, I'll get this. And I think, okay then. So, yeah, sort of, she kicks me out of it. And that's what I need,
Hmm.
because I'm not in the army anymore, even though I miss it so fucking dearly. I'm not in the army anymore. I am a civilian, and to integrate. And I feel sorry for people that haven't got that integration with a supporting spouse.
I mean, do you think that's the best thing about it is that she brings you back into yourself. She takes you out of that environment and kind of brings you back into connection with her. How, like, what is it about your relationship? Because I mean, I'm single at the minute, but I know looking like this, big surprise. But what advice would you give to people to find their version of that? And how did becoming a father, how did becoming a married man change you? Did it give you a sense of purpose that you've been missing?
Yeah, and I would say don't go looking for it. Don't go. It will happen naturally. You know, some people are meant to be on their own. Some people are meant to find somebody in this. And there's all that saying in it. There's always somebody out there for somebody, and it will happen naturally. You know, you could be out in the supermarket and bump into someone, and that spark would start straight away. And it will
Mm.
happen. But I don't regret getting married at all, and we've been married 20, 21 years now, just
That's
had our
awesome.
anniversary, and we're stronger than ever.
Mm.
We always hold hands. I always kiss her. We're always together. We do everything together. And I try and involve her as much as I can. And she's really good with me. She gives me my space. So she'll go upstairs and watch telly, and I'll stay downstairs with Steve, my dog, and we'll just chill out down there, and I'll watch my crap on telly. She gives me that space, and she's a big believer that I need that, and that's what I love about her. She does that, and that's what I say. I found the right one, and it will happen for everybody.
She does sound an amazing person, somebody that can actually understand you and knows when you need to be pulled back to give your space to
Yeah,
decompartmentalize. And, do you find just going for a walk with the dog sometimes is what you need? Just, put some music on to chill, to go out into that moment. I mean, what does a normal week look like for you when you're not doing a survival school? How do you
So I get
adapt to
up.
that?
So I get up at 3:30 in the morning. I go to bed at about 9:30. I get up at 3:30 in the morning. I go to the gym. I train until about 5:30, and then I go to work for 6. I work till 3:30, and then from 3:30 I come home. I walk Steve for about an hour. Come home, and then I'll answer emails to people that need me, or phone calls to people that are in, like, who need a chat,
Mhm.
who want a little, or booking people on the Maverick School. And then usually Tanya would cook me some scoff, and then have a shower and just sit down and watch telly for a while. And then an hour sitting down, and then go to bed again. Same thing. Weekends, totally different. I don't train weekends. Eat what I want. If I want a donut, I'll have a donut,
Good man.
And then I feel I'm at the age now. I thought, what the fuck? I can eat what I want and do what I want, And then I try and give the weekend to Tanya as much as I can, without me being at school, because the school I do weekend on, weekend off. I used to do every weekend, but I found out that I was burning myself out a lot. So I do weekend on, weekend off. Now this weekend I'm off. So, and but I'm traveling, picking up gear for the sniper school, but Tanya's coming with me, so she's a big part of everything that I do, And she's this year she's just started coming down the school as well, to do the cooking, so which is really
Awesome.
good. So yeah, so she's getting herself involved, which is absolutely brilliant. And yeah, that's my day. That is my day. It's nothing exciting. I'm not jumping or digging trenches in the garden. I'm just, I train hard, I work hard, and I come home and just be with my wife.
It's great that you found a new version of yourself, or what makes you comfortable, like that you found what works for you, and you found this amazing person, and you've joined now to this new venture to help other people. But do you ever switch off? Do you find that situational awareness kicking in when you're in the bananas at Sainsbury's? Do you ever kind of look around and analyze targets? Or are you kind of
Yep.
now, after you've been in such an intense environment, is life too quiet for you now?
Yeah, massively. I try and listen to as much stuff in my ears, trying to drown a lot of stuff out. But yeah, I, yeah, it's hard to switch off. I'm always thinking, and that's where that prime example, when Tanya said you're here, but you're not here, because I'm always thinking about the school. I'm always thinking about past things that I've done. I'm always thinking about the sniper school. I'm always thinking, what do I need to buy to make people more comfortable in the woods? I need to do this. I need to do that. Like tonight, I was eating my dinner. It was 6:30, and I thought, I've got a podcast at 7, and things sort of click in. But yeah, I never switch off, and I take sleeping pills to help me sleep, because I think this week alone I've had 3 night terrors, and I've called Tanya's name out 3 times, and she's come into the bedroom because we don't sleep together because I have bad night terrors. So and she just comes into my room and to make sure I'm all right. But yeah, it's been 3 this week. So, but yeah.
And what do you do after that? I mean, are you a journaler? Do you write them down? Do you try to see where it's come from? I mean, I've started using AI to look at my dreams, because sometimes I'm like, what the fuck does that? And then you kind of go, whoa, that's what it's coming to terms with. Or, do you journal at all? Do you have any kind of, like, when you do have these terrors, that you can kind of try to see where they've come from or deal with it? Have you tried any kind of supplements that help with that sort of thing?
I've got a journal, and I've had it for many years now, and it's really thick. It's like a telephone book, and it's got the most vilest, horriblest thoughts and intrusive thoughts. So if I am depressed or down, I write in it. It's got a lock on it. Tanya got it me years ago, and I write in it, and I'm too scared to finish it. So I write over pages that I've written over before, but with a different colour pen,
Mm.
and I I constantly write in it. There's nothing positive in that book at all. It's all vile stuff, fucking vile stuff,
Do you think
and
that
that's the
helps
only
you
thing I
because you're letting it out, that you're writing it to give its energy out of you to put it onto paper?
massively, but it's unhealthy to look back at it and read, because you're just opening that wound again. So
Mm.
the best thing is to write it in that page, and then lock that book up, and then put the bookmark on a clean page. So you're not looking back at the past. You're always striving forward, But yeah, it does help, and that's the only journal I keep. Is that it's nothing to do with dreams or, I know what my dreams are about, and yeah, I know what my dreams are about, and I just call Tanya's name out so just to make sure she's there. Do you know what I mean? So
And she always will be. And I think that's the beautiful thing about your relationship, is that you understand each other, that you can be open, honest, vulnerable with her, and like when you need her. But do you think that's why you
yeah.
started your fantastic show Beyond the Scope? It lets you now talk about other things, and like discuss it with people and learn from them, and to talk about your stuff as much as to help other people. It's helping you by being a kind of an audio journal, in a way that you can talk it out rather than just keep it buried down at your chest.
Oh, massively. And I think beyond the scope was I just wanted to interview people that have got an interesting story, not necessarily that people know who they are. Like no one knew who Darren was, um, but he was a copper that hunted paedophiles down.
Mm-hmm.
And horrific fucking job. And he'd done it for a couple of decades. And now, the Home Office saw my podcast. They called him into the Home Office, and now they're changing the rules and procedures, how police are discharged at the army, at the police force, and with support and a good pension just from
That's
beyond
amazing.
the scope. Yeah, yeah, just from beyond the scope, and that's what this beyond the scope's all about. It's for me, it's not about making money. It's not making. It's about getting the word out there for people that are struggling, and people that have got an interesting story, and that's what the beyond the scope's all about.
So, I mean, if you had the younger Craig listening to your show, the guy who was just going out to war, or the guy who was just going through, like you, who's still in the army, or what message would you have wanted to hear from a podcast or from a show, or just speaking to you? What do you think you needed back then that so many guys would benefit to hear from?
You need to stay positive in what you do and stay committed to what you do. And whatever you focus on and whatever you want to achieve, it's doable, massively doable. And you need to concentrate on your dreams and what you want to do, you know. And I think if I had a father figure, like when I do my talks, and I've done a lot to schools and stuff like that, and if I had somebody stood in front of me when I was a kid saying what I was saying, I think I would have gone further. I wish I'd gone back to do special forces more, But I got married, and then I heard that there was like 90% divorce rate in the SF community, and I didn't want to be one of those statistics, so I never followed up with it. But that's one of my biggest regrets, that I never really followed that. But everything that I've achieved, I put 110% in, 110%. And that's what people need to do. Don't go in half cocked. If you go in half cocked, you're not going to have your dreams. You're not going to achieve it. Go in 110%,
I love that.
and don't let the people take the piss out of you. Have a voice. If something's wrong and you think it's wrong, fucking say it's wrong. You know, because if you end up doing it and it's wrong, it's going to have bigger consequences.
And you worked with, is it Ross Hoare, the psychologist in the show? Has that helped you?
Yeah, yeah. I don't see Ross anymore. He's a friend now more than anything else, and he comes down to the school every Saturday night. So if people are struggling down at the Maverick School, even if they're not struggling, he comes down. But if you want to talk to him, he takes you on a little walk, and you go for a little chat with him. And what's good about Ross is he won't abandon you. So, for instance, if you lived in Glasgow, like yourself, and then he would find somebody in the Glasgow area qualified to talk to you and try and arrange a decent payment scheme for you to go and see that therapist. So there's no abandonment. So as soon as you open up to Ross, don't feel you'll be abandoned, because you won't. It'd always be followed up, and you would always be cared of. But Ross is fantastic. He's helped me so much. And even if I rang him straight off this podcast, he would say, "Come down," or "I'll come to you." They'd always be there. But I think, like I said, I think my mental health's boring, and to go over it and keep talking about it was not healthy for me. And it took me a long time to realise it's just not healthy for me to do that. So I'd rather sit and talk to Tanya about it. And I've been very open to Tanya. She knows everything. So, and then I think that's a good thing as well. Not keeping things locked up in a closet or a box somewhere. Just be open with your partner, and then they'll understand you more as well.
I think that's the amazing thing about it, is that you're providing like a father figure to those who haven't got one, who have, or maybe
Yeah,
had a dad in their life but who's never helped them in that sort of sense. I mean, I probably would say the same about myself. You're about providing people the opportunity to be in the wilderness, to talk about their feelings, to have a bond with other men who they've never maybe have any opportunity to do before, and to
yeah,
have somebody like yourself who can say, I've been in the shit, but I'm standing, I'm helping here, I'm here for you. And that sometimes can be enough to kind of let the floodgates open, to let the wall down and for them to change their lives. And
oh,
is
for
that
sure,
the
without a doubt.
benefit of Mavericks? Like, why, if somebody's
Yeah,
listening
yeah.
and really struggling, give us a great sales pitch for I mean, we've talked about how amazing it is, but what would somebody get from coming on the course?
So down at the Maverick School, you will come down, and I always say you learn about yourself, and then you learn about bushcraft second. It's all about getting together, a group of guys or group of females, doesn't matter whatever, and having that banter that they miss, and bringing people together and strangers together and leaving as friends at the end of the day. And that's what the Maverick School stands for, is bringing people together and enjoying what they're doing and working as a team. Because what I do as well when I'm down there, I break them off into pairs sometimes. But if they come down with a mate, I take them away from their mate and join them with somebody else, so you get to know that person. And on the Friday when you come down, you could hear a pin drop, because everyone's sussing each other out. On the
Hmm.
Saturday night, you can't shut the fuck up. Everyone's talking, everyone's having banter, everyone's having a laugh because they've worked everyone out. And I think once you've been in the military, even if you don't know that person who's been in the military next to you, you'll always have that camaraderie and dark humour because that you still served, and that's what the Maverick School is all about. It's about helping people. It's about helping people's mental health, and it's about helping people come out that dark hole that you're in to make you a better person. And the Maverick School will never ever abandon anyone. So if you need help, it's always there for you.
I love that, and you should be super proud of that. Because we see you as a British hero, and I know that you don't like that. You kind of you just want to be you and have like your life the way you want it to be. But I think that's something is like the fact that you can turn your internal darkness and shine a light on it to show other people how to find and be better people. It is truly amazing. You should be super proud of what you do, mate, because I find it remarkable, and I interview a lot of great people, but the stuff you do is truly breathtaking. What would you want people? I mean, I know I've used up so much of your time, and I can only apologise. I'd love to have you on again, and we can do other rounds and go into other things.
Anytime. Anytime.
But what would you want people to remember from this? Is there about the mental health, about remembering you're a person, not a label, finding how fixes for themselves? What would you want them to take from this?
I've done a lot of things in my life, and I've done a lot of things as a sniper that I've seen and done. Some things I'm not proud of, but I'm still here, and I'm still here. And I was at an end of a rope. I've been at the end of a rope. I've been pills in my hand, and I've had a gun in my hand as well, ready to check out and delete myself. And I'm still here. So anyone out there that's struggling, there is a light at the end of the tunnel. No matter if it's any tunnel in the world, there's always a second exit. And people need to find that. And there always is. If I can sit here and talk to you about my life experiences and about what I've done and achieved, there's always hope for people. And people should never, ever, ever give up. Never, ever give up. And I think you need to talk. People need to talk about what they're going through and what's to a friend, to a parent, to their sister, to their brother. They need to talk. And that's the hardest thing, is to start that line of communication. That's the hardest thing. But once you've done it, don't shut up. Keep talking. Keep talking. They might not understand, but there's somebody there listening to you, nodding their head. And that could save your life.
Beautifully put. And for those who want to follow you, like connect with you on social media, who want to come and join the Maverick School, who want to be part of the Sniper School, who, whatever it is, even if they just want to send you a kind of like, listen to this and I found what you said really helpful, how can we get in touch? How can we keep in contact with you and what the amazing things you're going to be doing, like TED Talks, websites, all these things that you deserve to be doing?
So my Instagram, COH Craig Harrison. That's my Instagram. My wife helps me a lot on that Instagram as well. So there's not a message that we don't read, and I'll get inundated. But we try to answer every message, and I try to voice message everybody instead of texting, because hearing a voice rather than texting is more personal. And if they go onto Google and put the Maverick Survival School in there, the website will come up. There's a donation button there as well. So if anyone wants to donate to the school to help a veteran, it goes such a fucking long way, because it's self-funded by me, and everything helps. And also, there's a booking system there as well. So if you want to come down and experience, all veterans all I expect them to pay is £50 to come down for the whole weekend, just to cover the costs of food and stuff like that. But anyone else that wants to come down, just give us a shout out on the webpage. There's a email address there which I read. So if you're really struggling, get down to the school. We can sort money out later on. Let's get down to the school and get you sorted and get you on the straight and narrow.
Well, that's it for another week, and thank you for listening. It's now time to take what you've learned and use it to develop and enhance your life with the key points mentioned. Listen, try it, embrace it, use it, and crush it. Now's your time to hit that next level in your life. If you liked this episode, then please leave a comment on the show notes or a review of the show on your podcast platform. Everything helps evolve the show. Until next week, keep seeking the next level in your life.